To Capote, and right now we're doing part 3 to our How to Learn Yu-Gi-Oh series. So today we're going to be explaining the types of cards, so monsters, spells, and traps, as well as how to summon. Now, the summoning is going to come at the end of the video. So first we have normal versus effect monsters. Here we have a normal monster. Now a normal monster has the part where you can see it has name, attribute, level, and it doesn't have an effect. And that's all you need to know. It doesn't have an effect. It's sort of yellowish, orangey color, but it's more yellow than orange. And yeah, then we have effect monsters. As you can see, the background of the effect monsters are a little bit orange. It's darker than the other cards, and here we'll go over the parts of the cards. Basically, the distinction between normal and effect monster is one has an effect, the other one doesn't, and I'm going to explain the rest of the card. So here we have the name, here we have the attribute, here we have the level of the monster, here we have the warrior, the type and type of monster that the monster is. Here we have the effect. Here we are, here we have the attack, and here we have the defense, which is a little covered by the 3, but you can see the defense in the description. Yeah, so first, let's go over the attribute of the cards. So attributes have a part to play in Yu-Gi-Oh! As to some cards have effects depending on cards' attributes, some cards have summoning conditions depending on attributes, and some decks have playstyles related to attributes. So in the game, we have the attribute wind, which is right here, fire, which is this symbol right here, earth, which is this symbol right here, and light, which is this symbol right here. We also have divine, but those cards are few and far between. There are very few cards that we have in the game that are divine. Basically just the god cards and cards relating to the god cards, but you don't really need to know that for normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Because those cards suck. Unless you want to build a god deck, then it's fine. But let's go over the parts of the different parts of the cards. So up here we have the name. Now, I'm going to explain a little thing called archetypes along with the names. So here, as you can see, we have the name Elemental Hero Stratos. Now, this means that Stratos is part of the Elemental Hero archetype as well as the Hero archetype because it has that in the name. Now, the way archetypes and naming works in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that every name is unique in Yu-Gi-Oh! So every card has a different name unless it specifies otherwise. So as you can see, here we have all the elemental heroes. So all the cards that belong to the archetype elemental heroes because they have it in the card name. As you can see, all of them have elemental hero in their card name. Now, this also means that every card here belongs to the hero archetype. So if I go here and just delete the elemental part, all of these cards are still going to show up, but other cards are going to show up. So they have sub-archetypes within archetypes. And what this means is that all of these cards are going to, they all play with each other, and they all play with certain cards. Like a hero lives. This one says summon an elemental hero from monster from your deck. Or emergency call, search for an elemental hero monster. Or something like Stratos, which says add one hero monster to your deck. So that's where the difference between sub-archetypes and archetypes come in. So Stratos is something good in all hero decks because it just searches a hero monster. So all it has to have is that hero in its card. But something like Emergency Call can only be played in elemental hero decks. It searches for an elemental hero, and it has to have that whole name there. So that's just something that's really unique to Yu-Gi-Oh! I think there aren't a lot of cards that actually Magic does the naming thing too, but stuff like Weiss and stuff, they have a lot of cards with the same name. It's just really it's really weird, but it is what it is, and yeah, we're here and we love it. Then we have let's go back to our monster card here. We have the levels. So there are strategies revolving around levels. It matters for extra deck plays, and it just matters for summoning. Different levels means different amounts of tributes for summoning. And besides that, it only matters if the monster is 4 or less, or if it fits into a certain like playstyle, basically. Then we have the type. So here you can see that it says warrior effect. So that just means that it's an effect monster and that it's a warrior monster. Now, I'm going to show you guys all the different types. So all of these here are the different types in Yu-Gi-Oh! So we have Spellcaster, Dragon, Zombie, Warrior, Machine, Wing Beast, Beast, Beast Warrior, Fiend, Fairy, Insect, Dinosaur, Aqua, Sea Serpent, Fish, Reptile, Pyros, Thunder, Rock, Plant, Divine Beast, Cyberse, Worm, and Psychic. Now, basically, most of the time, these things don't matter. But they do matter when playing in tandem with different cards. For example, we have a card here, Reinforcements of the Army. Just Yu-Gi-Oh! Players call it Rhoda because it's really long to say and it's a really popular card. So Rhoda says add 1 level 4 warrior monster from your deck to your hand. Now, there are a lot of cards like this where you can just add a card to your hand if it's a certain type, or you can only play certain monsters if they're that type, or they lock you into a certain type. There are a lot of strategies that revolve around types in Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's just really useful to have a lot of cards with the same type. Usually that's how it works, but sometimes you end up having just a bunch of decks with different typings, and that can be so advantageous sometimes, depending on the card. Then here we have the effect. This big bunch of the card is what differentiates effect monsters from normal monsters. Here, you can see that the words that Stratos does are things that relating to the game. So when this card is normal or special summon, you can activate one of these effects, destroy spell cards on the field up to the number of hero monsters you control, except this card, or add 1 hero monster from your deck to your hand. That's its effect. That's what the card does. We have the normal monsters, which don't have that. Instead of that, they just have flavor text, which is basically just a little story about the character. So here we have Elemental Hero Burstinatrix, a flame manipulator who was the very first Elemental Hero woman. Her burst fire burns away villainy. You like my little voice there? Anyway, so we have the difference between the normal effect monsters. That's basically what I was rehashing. But we have the effect there, and then we have the attack and defense right here on the card. Again, the defense is covered by the little 3, but we can see that it's 300 on the left here. Basically, this is what you use for battle, and we went over that earlier in the video. Let's go on to spell cards. So here I have a bunch of different spell cards to show you guys the different types of spells in the game. So the way a spell card works in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you can only play it during your main phase 1. So you can only set and activate spell cards during your main phase 1, unless we're quick plays, but I'll get to that in a bit. And during your main phase 2. This is when you can activate and set spell cards. It's the same thing with trap cards, but there are different similarities that they have the spell cards. First, we have normal spells. These can be activated from the hand or set from the hand, and they have an effect. You do it, and then they go to the graveyard. These are cards like Monster Reborn or A Hero Lives. And to activate spell cards, you do have to meet their activation requirement. So this is something a little bit like more advanced, but here it says if you control no face-up monsters. So to use this card, you have to have no face-up monsters. If you don't, this card cannot go from your hand to the field. It stays in your hand, and you can't use it. Or here, Monster Reborn. There has to be a card in a graveyard because you have to target a monster in a graveyard to be able to use it. Then we have the effects of the cards. So it's what they do. So here, Monster Reborn, target 1 card in either graveyard, special summon it. So it just special summons a monster to your graveyard, and we'll go over summoning in a bit. And A Hero Lives, it special summons one level 4 or lower elemental hero monster from your deck. Basically, normal spell cards, you use them, they're gone. You can only do it during your main phase, and they're just there. Then we have a quick plays. These are normal spells that equip to a monster and give an effect to that monster. So here we have pretty simple ones. Here you can see it just says the equipped monster gains 1,000 attack, and when this card is sent to the field, it has another effect. So this just means that you play the card, you target a monster that you equip. You target a monster and you equip it to that monster, and that monster gains said effect. Same thing with this one. This just makes it gain up 500 attack. There are other equipped spells that do other things, more complex things, but I just thought I'd go with these because they're simple. They just gain attack. And the equipped spell has this symbol right here. This is how you can tell it's an equipped. Then we have field spell cards. This, in the first video, as if you guys remember, if you watched it, this is the card that goes into the field spell zone. Now, when you activate a field spell, it stays on the field, just like an equipped spell does. And if you if you activate it, both players get the effects of the cards unless it says otherwise. So here we have different field spells that do different things. So here you can see the field spell symbol, and here you can see the effects. So what does Skyscraper do? If an elemental hero monster attacks a monster that has a higher attack, the attacking monster gains 1,000 attack during damage calculation only. So this just boosts its attack. It's just a good thing. It only affects elemental heroes, so you're most likely going to be the only one getting affected by it. Toon Kingdom, however, is when this card is activated, banish the top card, 3 cards of your deck face down. This card becomes the name of this card becomes Toon World while on the field zone. Your opponent cannot target Toon monsters you control with card effects. If a Toon monster would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish 1 card from the top of your deck face down for each of those monsters instead. So this is something of a better field spell because this actually does something on the field, and it's just again, it's very specific, so it's most likely your opponent won't be able to activate it. Now, here's an example of a one-sided field spell. A field spell that only you can use. When this card is activated, you can set 1 Eternal Soul directly from your deck. If you normal special summon a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl monster, you can target one of those monsters, special summon 1 Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from your graveyard with a different name than that monster. You can only use this effect of Magician's Salvation once per turn. So, this is a card that's a little bit different because it mentions something when it's activated. Now, a player can only use the effect of an activated card if it is their card. So this is a one-sided field spell because only you can activate the main effect of the card. Now, the summoning the Dark Magician effect and Dark Magician Girl effect, both players can use, but that's not the good effect of the card, right? So it's fairly one-sided. Now let's go into ritual spells. So ritual spells, basically, all you need to know is that they're used to summon a ritual monster. I'll explain ritual summoning in when we get to the what types of monsters in the next video. But for now, all you need to know is that you need this to ritual summon a monster, and this is just another one. So this one says Magician of Black Chaos. This one says Ruin King of Oblivion or Demise King of Armageddon. Those are the monsters you can summon with them. That's all you need to know. Then we have continuous spell cards. This is a symbol for continuous spell cards, and these cards, like field spells, like equip spells, stay on the field when activated. Now, something in common for all of the cards, they have to stay on the field to be able to resolve their effects. So here it says when a card is activated, you can add 1 live twin monster from your deck to your hand. Now, the other effects don't really matter, but when it's activated, you can do this. Now, if this card leaves the field for whatever reason, the effect won't resolve. Same thing with D-Force. You won't be able to add Destiny Hero Plasma if it doesn't stay on the field. Same thing with Magician's Salvation. You won't be able to set Eternal Soul if the card is not on the field. And that's just how it works. And field spells, equip spells, and normal spells can all be activated the turn they are set. So if you set the card on the field, say because you have something in your hand that requires you to have no cards in the hand, then you can activate it right after if you need to, which is just really useful and really something that even like people who have been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a while don't really realize until later. Then, next, we have quick play spell cards. Now, the quick play spell cards have this little lightning bolt symbol. It's my favorite one. And these are a little bit different. These are like normal spell cards, but they're also like trap cards, which I'm going to explain the mechanics of it in a bit. Don't worry. But like, what this means is that when you set them, you can't activate them the same turn they're set. But it also means that when they are set, you can activate it so you're during your opponent's turn. So, what do I mean? I mean, if this card is set on the field, you can flip it during your opponent's turn when it meets the conditions. So here, Called by the Grave, target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard. So if your opponent has a monster in their graveyard, you can flip this and banish it, and just at any point during their turn or your turn if this card is set. But you have to, if it is set, you have to wait till your opponent's turn. So these can be activated from the hand at any point during the turn, unlike the other cards, which can only be activated during the main phase. So this can be activated during standby, battle, draw, main 2, or end phase. Or it can be activated during your opponent's turn, again, during any point of the turn, if it meets the conditions. And yeah, that's quick play spell cards. Then we have trap cards. We have here a normal trap card. This means, so the mechanics for trap cards are that they have to be set a full turn before being able to be activated. This means that the trap cards are a bit more powerful, but it's managed by being like a slower game mechanic, right? It's not a very pushy like beat your face and unga boonga mechanic. It's a very just like sit back and be like, interesting, you know. But there are three different types of trap cards. There's normal, counter, and continuous. So the rules for normal traps are you have to set it during your turn, and then you can activate during your opponent's turn, or during your turn after you wait a full your turn to activate it. So, and it has to meet the conditions. So here, these are both battle traps because these are just some of my favorite cards. Mirror Force, when your opponent monster declares an attack, you can activate this. So you can activate this during your opponent's turn. Normal traps can be activated. I'll explain spell speed and what that means right after I explain these trap cards. But basically, all you need to know is that you have to set these first. And everything in the continuous are the same as continuous spells, just in trap card form. And I'll explain why counter traps matter when I get to spell speed. So, spell speed. Spell speed is a little tricky thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! That you don't really learn until later on in your playing. If you're just playing with friends, it does matter because it makes it so you're following the rules. But I'll explain what spell speed means just now, actually. So, spell speed 1 means monster effects that aren't quick effects and normal spell cards. This means you can activate them during the main phase, but you can only activate them when you are starting a chain. So it means it has to be the first thing you activate, and then your opponent can respond to it, or you can respond to it. But you can't respond to something with these cards. You have to start something with it. It has to be the first thing you do. So things like Monster Reborn and A Hero Lives, it has to be the first thing, not the first thing in the turn, but the first thing in the series of actions. So if you say normal summon a monster, you can't chain. You can't activate Monster Reborn right after that. You have to, if your opponent responds. If, say, you activate Stratos effect and your opponent activates a quick play spell, you can't activate Monster Reborn after that. You have to wait till everything resolves, and then you activate Monster Reborn. Then Spell Speed 2 is everything like quick play spells and normal and continuous trap cards. This means that you can activate these in response to Spell Speed 1 cards and Spell Speed 2 cards. So if your opponent activates a Stratos, you can chain Called by the Grave, or you can chain Forbidden Droplet. So it's basically just you can activate these in response to something else. Then Spell Speed 3. The only thing in the game that's Spell Speed 3 are counter traps. When you activate a counter trap, it means that your opponent can't respond with anything that isn't a counter trap or something that isn't a counter trap. So basically, you if they activate Monster Reborn and then you activate Called by the Grave and then you activate Solemn Judgment, they can't respond with the Forbidden Droplet, or they can't respond with another Called by the Grave. They have to respond with another Solemn Judgment or another counter trap that does something that they want to, right? And then Spell Speed 4 is something like sort of mythical. It's not really a thing, but that's the reason I put Super Poly here. What people call Spell Speed 4 is something that you can't respond to. So here it says neither player can activate cards in response to this card's activation. So that means that you can't activate anything else. You can't even activate counter traps to it. It's just, it happens, and that's where the chain ends. And there are certain cards like this, for example, Forbidden Droplet. Basically, this is just a weirder version of Super Poly where it you turn off certain cards. But that's it for spell speed. Now let's go into chains. So chains, I think I can explain it in a non-visual manner. So what it is basically the order that you activate things. So first, you're going to, let's say, your opponent activates Monster Reborn. Then you can activate a quick play spell card, or a Spell Speed 2 card at chain level 2. So what you're going to do is you're going to say, I activate Monster Reborn. Then your opponent goes, I chain Called by the Grave as chain link 2. Then if your opponent wants to, they can be like, oh, I activate Solemn Judgment as chain link 3. So what this means is that after the chain happens, it has to resolve for you to be able to do something else. So you have to activate, you have to do Monster Reborn, you have to banish the monster, and you have to negate. So first, what happens is the last chain link activates first. So Solemn Judgment would negate Called by the Grave. Then Called by the Grave would try to resolve. It wouldn't resolve because it got negated by Solemn Judgment. And then Monster Reborn would resolve, and then you summon the monster from the graveyard, and then your opponent can activate another spell speed 1 card, like a Hero Lives, or another Chain Link 2, or another Quick Play spell, or the priority player, sorry, not your opponent. But yeah, that's basically Chain Links. It's really simple. It's just I thought I needed a visual explanation, but I decided not to because that was too much of a hassle. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you're learning and like sort of thinking like, wow, this seems like a pretty cool game. Which it is. It's just a lot of nuisance and a lot of just learning. I'm gonna do like a explanation game, sort of. I'm gonna just show you guys how a deck works and how a deck plays at the end of all of this. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and see you guys later. Hope you have a great day.